Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new video. Now, I've always been warned and told it's never a good idea to buy a car from a pub car park. With that being said, here we have the pub, and over there we have the car park. So this is actually the first time that I've been to see the car. I've been given the logbook and also got a key for it. I've got loads of service history and stuff with the car, and I've also got a fuel pump in a bag, so I'm assuming that the fuel pump's been taken off the car. I've come over today to just put a battery on it so that basically we can put it into neutral to get it recovered. So I'll spin the camera around and you can have a quick look. So as you can see, I've got myself a battery there. Looks like the birds quite like it, so I've decided to crap all over it. A nice leather interior in there by the looks of it. Tinted windows in the back there. I can see some engine parts and bolts. Tyres don't look too bad either. It's got a tow bar, which is quite nice. Yeah, I'll unlock it and we'll have a quick look inside. So I believe, as I say, the battery is dead flat, and I think it's hidden under the driver's seat on these. I'm going to have a quick look in underside, or have a quick look underneath the bonnet. So as you can see, fuel pump's been taken off there. So I think this door is actually deadlocked where the central locking's still on, because I opened this door manually. And I've tried opening it from the inside and it won't open. Somebody has also kindly ripped off the parking brake release handle that was in the centre console. You can just get a screwdriver under there, just push on that and that will undo this, so that is fine. But until the recovery company turn up, I'm probably going to leave that for the minute, and then what I will do is just get them to use the battery we've got. I'll leave a battery in some jump leads and they'll be able to just connect it up to here, and then the earth somewhere, wherever the earth is, they'll be able to find an earth and use that. Oh, the earth point there, so they'll be able to use that, get it into neutral, get it on their recovery lorry. We've now had the car recover back to the house so we can take a proper look under the bonnet and see what somebody's been up to. I've also got plenty of layers on today because it's freezing. So yeah, we'll have a quick look under the bonnet and then we can see what bits we've got in the back of the car, and I was also given a bag with the fuel pump in as well, so we can grab that and take a look at that. When I bought the car, I was given the fuel pump in a bag, also the logbook and the key for it, but I wasn't given a description as to why the car's been taken apart. So the fuel pump on this particular engine sits right up the top here, and it's run by a cam belt. I did look through the history of the vehicle and it has had quite a lot of money spent on it over the years. It's had new inlet manifolds, it's had various bits and pieces, it's got full service history, it's reasonable mileage. I think it's done about 85,000. So I think what I'm going to look at doing first is probably putting the fuel pump back onto the car, because it's not a particularly difficult job on this one. As I say, it's right at the top here, so I'll probably look at doing that first, putting it back together, and then sort of seeing if it will start, taking some fault code readings and sort of diagnosing it ourselves then, so we know where we're going with it. I'm not looking at putting every single component back on, just enough that we can get it to crank over without causing any damage. What I would look at doing in the future, if we are successful or when we get to a point that the car's running, I will look at replacing this cam belt anyway, just as a matter of precaution. Not done any of these up as such just yet. I'm just running them down with the there is a little keyway on this pulley, just a little roll pin that's on the shaft of the diesel pump, so that locks that in place. And then on the back part of the tensioner here, you've got a little piece that just locks that in place or holds that in place. Can't see an arrow on that one. I will look at torquing all of this stuff up, as I mentioned earlier, once I've replaced the belt. So we just need to do this one up now that we've managed to get the belt on there. That's fine. I'm going to leave this cover and that off for the minute as well. We've got this section here that should hold the belt on. Now that that's tight, we can then retension that, I think. Just going to give everything a quick once over, make sure everything that we've been messing about with is all back in place. And I'm going to check the oil and the coolant level as well, just to make sure that they're okay. I don't want to try and attempt to start this or do anything like that without checking those first. Oil level's all right. A little bit high if anything, but that's alright. Oh, just seen where they put the engine ECU. What a fantastic idea that is. In the scuttle panel. Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, we got some coolant in there. It's not right up the top, but it's there. I think my jump leads are they've got a bit warm before. Try it again. Right, after a little bit of fighting with the jump leads, I've got ignition, so we turn it over. See what happens. Well, let's see if we can get the fuel pump to prime. It's done 92,000. Get the key out. Well, I can hear the fuel pump in the back. That made some noise. What's the rear wiper doing? Oh, okay, we're going to go for a crank, see what happens. The battery is obviously fantastic. Getting better. I've got fuel up to the fuel line here going into the pump, I can see that. I've got fuel, what looks like probably leaking out of pressure relief valve on the fuel pump. So somebody's had that out. Let's see if we've got any fuel coming up. Trying to see if I've got anything coming out to the injectors yet. I doubt it. There is fuel there. I would sort of try and bleed it, but there's only me here, so that might not go that well. Let's see if there's fuel at the back one. Don't think there's fuel at that one. Might not have worked its way around just yet. So it turns out that the battery is not actually under the driver's seat, it's under the passenger seat. So there's 4 bolts that hold the seat in, the multi-spline ones, and then there are another 4 that hold a cradle, which the seat or the seat base bolts onto, and then you can pull all that out of the way. There's a plastic cover which is just held on by 4 of these little retainers, and then you can get access to the battery. So swap that over for the one I've got, and we can try again, see if we can start this thing up. Before I go any further, I'm just going to read all the codes on the car. Then I'm going to reset them, try again and see what codes come back. I will double check and see if we've now got fuel coming up towards the injectors. So we can crack one of the injector pipes off and see if we get fuel coming out. Yeah, so we've got fuel at that injector. See if we've got fuel over on this bank here. Yeah, we've got, it's bubbling away, so it's like we're getting fuel coming up to this injector here. It's a shame I haven't got somebody with me that could help me sort of bleed the system, because that would be good. So we've got fuel at either bank. So I'll try, yeah, it's definitely diesel. Give it one more go before I then try with the code reader. I don't want the battery to go flat. Right. Just going to chuck a jump pack, sorry, not a jump pack. I'm just going to put a battery charger on the car, direct to the battery because I can still gain access to that. We'll code read it, reset it and try again. Hopefully you can see there on the screen I've just code scanned the engine ECU on the car, and we have got multiple fault codes for fuel rail system pressure too low. So there's two of the same codes, P0087, P0091, which is fuel pressure regulator, and then 0090, which is the fuel volume regulator control circuit open. So I am going to erase these. We'll give it another couple of goes to see if we can get it started. If we can't, then obviously we're going to need to look into the issue a bit further. I may be able to find out to see if that fuel pump was actually tested where it was taken off, but I haven't got any paperwork to say that it has been. It may well be more cost effective to actually just get a second-hand pump if one's cheap enough compared to getting it tested and rebuilt. But yeah, for now we'll just reset these and turn it over again and see what happens. That's now those all cleared off. Let's see if I can have a look at a bit of the live data, see if we can get an idea of what sort of pressure we're getting at the fuel rail. If those sensors are working properly, that should give us an indication. So hopefully you can now make out on the camera that we've got the engine speed, injection amount, fuel pressure, and we can see the readings down here. So I'm now going to crank the engine and then we can look at those readings. We should obviously get the engine speed, but the one we're looking for is the fuel pressure. I have also recharged the battery because that was getting a bit low where we'd been cranking it before. So as you can see there, we were getting absolutely no fuel pressure whatsoever. So now that we've refitted the fuel pump and done a bit of diagnostics ourselves, I did reach out to a local diesel specialist that rebuild fuel pumps and things like that, and injectors and test injectors and so on. I gave them the vehicle details, explained the issue that I'm having, gave them the numbers off of the pump directly, and they did confirm that actually these pumps are quite troublesome. They do tend to break up internally. Apparently that's quite a common issue with these. So I did ask them if they could test the pump to confirm that, but obviously that runs the potential risk of damaging their rig. So they said that's not something that they normally do. So I did reach out to some motor factors as well as them, and I got sort of a price range of between £600 to £800 plus the VAT for a new one. So what I might do is just have a look around, see if I can get a second-hand unit for it, so that we can put that on there and see if that cures our issue. I did have a bit of a look online at these fuel pumps, and apparently it is quite common for those. It tends to be where we've got the more emissions friendly fuels now. They're taking out some of the lubricants in the fuels, and that is just damaging the fuel pumps according to what people are saying online. So I'll have a scout about, see if I can get myself a second-hand fuel pump. Hopefully we'll be in the next clip with some good news and we can put another fuel pump on it. So it's been a few days since we last worked on the car, but we have managed to get hold of a whole box of service bits. I have also got a fuel pump belt for the car, so if we manage to get it running, we can change that belt, as well as giving it a good service and a once over. And we have got ourselves another fuel pump. So I'm not going to worry about filming that because you saw me take the, or put the old one on the car. So I'm going to swap this out. I'm going to change the fuel filter as well to make sure that that's all clean. I'll check that where the fuel filter sits in the housing there, make sure that that's all clean, and then we can cut back in and see if it will start. So I thought things were coming along really nicely with this car. I'd managed to get the fuel pump on there with not too much trouble. I was really pleased with that, and I just thought as a final good practice, I would just take the fuel filter out, clean all the fuel filter housing and replace the fuel filter itself. And then that's when things took a turn for the worst. This fuel filter housing was filled up with swarf. It looked like the bottom of a machine shop floor. So I've cleaned all of that out now. I'll just grab the fuel filter so you can have a quick look at the remnants of that. So if you can just make that out all along the bottom of the filter and all round here, it's all bits of swarf and metal, which is obviously where the fuel pump has broken up on this thing. It's just decided to squirt it all around the vehicle. So it will have gone through the injectors, back down into the leak off system, all the way back to the tank, filled up the tank full of swarf as well, and then obviously pumped it back up to this filter. So what I'm going to have to look at doing now is taking those injectors out. I'll probably look at just getting some used injectors for now and replacing those. I'm going to need to clean all of the fuel lines out down to the tank. I was really quite pleased when I first turned the ignition on this car. I had 3/4 of a tank of fuel. I'm not quite so pleased now because I've got to drain it all out. So I'm going to have to drain all of the fuel out. I'm also going to have to clean all of the lift pump out as well. Revisit this fuel filter housing, make sure that that's all clean, put a new fuel filter in there, and just make sure we clean this as much as we can. Now I'm hoping if I undo some of these splined bolts here, we should be able to take that seat assembly out and this foam, and it does look as if I can see one of the access panels there and maybe underneath that one as well. So I might need to also take this seatbelt anchorage off, but we'll take this bit out first and see how we get on. Oh, wrong way. Oh, hello. Aha! So now, these two silver access panels here are for the lift pump in the fuel tank. So we've got our sender unit on this side here, and then we've got the in-tank fuel pump this side here. So we've taken both of those covers off. As I mentioned just a moment ago, we had to release these seat sections here so that we could get to the two nuts underneath there. I have also given this a bit of a hoover in and around the area, because when I take the pump and the sender unit out, what I don't want is any contaminants or extra dirt and crap to drop into the bottom of there. So what we need to do with these is you've just got a metal ring that locks this into place. So I'm just going to tap this round gently with a hammer and a chisel, and that's then going to release that. That's that top cover now removed, so we can see directly into the fuel tank there. I have had a look myself in there just before pointing the camera in there, and you can see some swarf right on the bottom of the tank there. You can see some real light metal shavings. So once that tank's all drained out, I'm going to stick a rag in there and give that a real good clean. Maybe even put the hoover in there, see if I can give that a clean. And then we'll do exactly the same over this side here. So this is the in-tank fuel pump assembly. You've got two pipes that go over to the other side of the tank, because where you've got the prop shaft, obviously in the centre there, the tank comes up. So there's a connector there for the two pipes from the other side. You've got a connector here for the actual pump itself. And then you've got one, I believe, which comes across from the sender unit. On the top here, you've just got one multi-plug. Then you've got your two fuel lines and your leak off return. So what we're going to look at doing now is taking this bottom section off here, because inside where the pump is, there's a very small sort of filter that sits on the bottom of the pump. So I just want to clean all of that out and make sure that that's all out of there. There is a bit of fuel in the bottom there as well, so it's just going to be trying to get all of that fuel out. There's just two tags at the bottom here that if you push in, this should then allow me to pull this section out. Got there eventually. So in the bottom here, I'm just going to give all of that a nice good clean. Make sure that that's not got any debris or dirt in there. And then this filter here, going to give all of that a clean, give all the fuel pump a clean as well. Oh, see ya! So that's the filter assembly now all off. What I can do with that is I'll go outside, put a respiratory mask on, and I'll clean that all out and blow that out with the airline. And then I'll clean all of this lot as well, as I just mentioned, clean all of this, blow all of the lines out with an air line. Again, just making sure that I've got a mask on. And then that should be good to put back together. I won't put it in the tank just yet because I want to blow all of the lines back down to the tank, give it a final clean, and then put all of this stuff back in. The next thing I'm going to be working on is replacing or removing the fuel injectors. So what I've done already is I've just marked each one of the injector pipes with the cylinder number that it corresponds, so then I know which way round they came off. They do generally tend to only fit in one way, but I just think it's easier if you've marked those. I would also mark the injectors normally if I was taking those out, so that they go back in the same cylinder that they've come out of, but because we're not going to be reusing those injectors, I don't have to worry about that so much. When we do put the new injectors in, we are going to need to code them in on the car, so we're just going to need to put in the injector codes, program those. So we can make a start by taking the leak off pipes off, taking the electrical connectors off, these hard lines, and then gain access to the injectors. Fingers crossed they'll come out fairly easily, but we shall see what happens. I'm going to use the compressor to blow all of these lines out as well, just to make sure that they're clear. Just move that air filter out of the way. It's going to give me a bit more access to the injectors. That's all of the connectors now off, the leak off pipe and the hard lines. So on these you've just got 4 Allen key bolts that hold a cover over the top here. So we're just going to undo all of those. If you haven't got one of these flexible magnets on a stick with a claw in it, you need to get one. It makes such a difference, because I spent most of my time recently fishing for bolts because I keep dropping them. Now I've just spun these, what look like aluminium covers, over and out of the way, and that then gives me access to 2 10mm nuts which hold the clamp on, which hold the injector in place. So I'm just going to undo these and try not to drop them into the cam cover there. And once I've got this injector out, hopefully then I can show you what I was talking about. So there we go. We've got this cover here, which just sits in the top of the cam cover, and then you've got the clamp here. I do need to retrieve the copper washer, which is just tucked down in there, so I can get that out as well. But I'm going to take all of this side out now, and then what we will do is clean up the injectors that we've got, some used ones. We're going to put new seals in, make sure that those mating surfaces where the seal goes in is nice and clean. We will also put some ceramic grease on the injectors just to stop those getting seized in, or hopefully trying to prevent that. We'll do this side and then we'll do that side. What I'm going to do as well is on the top of the injector here, you've got your numbers that you need to use to code the injector in. So this number here. So I'm going to take a photo of each injector as I put them in, and then I'll go cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And obviously as I take the photos, then I will have cylinder 1 to 6. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'll get cracking with the rest of these. Perfect. Managed to not drop any of those bolts, which is good. Great. That is injector number 3 there. So that's all of these ones out. So I've just got the one injector seal to get out. So that's that one there. The other 2 came out with the injectors. So the holes themselves are looking nice and clean. I'm going to blow some air down there. So I've just used my bottle brush set here just to clean out all of where the injector sits in there, just to make sure that they are nice and clean where the mating surfaces are. I've got myself some new copper washers. Normally I do put them on the ends of the injectors first, but I think where this cam cover is open, I'm going to look to just put them into the cylinder, get them flat. I think that's going to be a sensible option for me. It's a little trick: if you get yourself a screwdriver, just put that on the end there. I've got my finger over it, and then I can just put that over the hole. And then drop that into the hole there. Give it a bit of a wiggle. There you go. Just like that. And that way we don't risk dropping it into the cam covers and all around where the cams are. And we have the clamp. Just putting those securing nuts back on for the clamps that hold the injectors in. That's all of the injector clamps now torqued down. So I'm going to twist these covers and put those on with the securing bolts that hold them on. There's also another securing bolt that just holds on a clamp for the wiring, so we can also do that. You can blow out the lines that go up to the injectors from the rail here, blow out all of these, also some of these extra fuel lines as well here. And if we come round to the other side, we've got the fuel filter, so we'll blow all of those lines out as well. And then finally, not forgetting the fuel pump in here, we'll blow all of those lines out as well. So I'm now just plugging the injector plugs back on and the leak off pipe. So these just push on and then you push the top down. And I have checked all the seals on the top of the injectors where the leak off pipes go on. There's just some little rubber O-rings. Check those as well. They're all okay and in place. So that side's all in and done. I'm going to blow out the air box, put a new air filter in because I've got an air filter for it, because that's this side now complete. Nice M3 just went past. Lovely. That was the old one just for reference. I'll get the clip from earlier and put that on there. Gonna have to get some of those nice injector sockets they have that sort of got like an open end on them and a bend, and they sit quite nicely over the top of the injector pipe. You can do them up far easier and undo them far easier than how I'm doing it right now. Just unplugging the connector for the throttle valve. I know it goes further. I thought that was the only one, and then that would allow me to have all of this like out the way, but that's not going to be the case. So I'm going to take those aluminium covers off, or the bolts that hold those on, spin that round like we've done on the other one. Go from there. You know what they say? You can go one step forward and then 2 steps back, and it was going really quite well. All of the injectors came out nicely here, and I managed to drop one of the nuts, which is what I said I'd try not to do, straight down into the cam cover. So up here I've had to take some of the inlet tracks back off. I've had to undo all of the cam cover here, and then I'm going to lightly pry that off and hopefully be able to get the nut. It's dropped down between the top of the cam cover here and the cam itself, and I can't get my magnet in there to pull that out, so I've had to undo all of this lot. While I was waiting for my battery to charge back up on the camera so I could show you what I'd been up to, or what I'd been not achieving, I took some more lines off of the fuel system up where the filter is, and I've blown them back down to the tank, so I know that they're clear now. And then I've just wiped the tank back out and checked that that's all okay. When we took the inlet track back off, it enabled me to get to the 2 pipes that go into the fuel pump, and I've taken those right off the car, blown them clean through, and then I've just put this one back on, which goes from the pump to the rail over that side. So let's see if we can fish this nut back out once we've taken this cam cover off. Aha! There it is! He says there's another one drops off over there by the sounds of it. It is just tucked down in here. So let me see if I'm going to get a magnet before I drop it even further somewhere. There we go. What a pain. Right, back to it. Was a bit of a tense moment there, but I've managed to get all of the nuts back on without dropping them into the cam case this time, which is great. So again, just like the other side, just doing these up evenly. We ended up losing the light last night, so we're back out and back at it again this morning. I managed to get to a point where I'd got all of the injectors in. I did have to take one of the injectors back out so that I could get the oil filler neck back onto the cam case. So I've done that this morning, and now I'm just going to put the inlet manifold on, finish up what I'm doing under here, and then we can move to the back of the car and put those pumps back in to the tank there. That's the lift pump in the tank there, all ready to rock and roll. We've cleaned all of that, as you've seen, blown all of the fuel lines out, and it's just a case of putting this back into the car now. I will do one final check just to make sure that the fuel tank is clean before I put this in. I've already put this side in where the sender unit is, because it's just going to be really awkward to try and film that with the camera there. So we're just going to look at putting this one in place now. So what I'll start by doing is I'm just checking where the seal mates onto the tank there, that's nice and clean. Going to get that down into the tank there. And then we have got some bits to connect up in the tank. Got a wiring plug there, one of the fuel lines, plug that in. That's the fuel line going over to the other side of the tank. Just going to check that that's all seated properly before I do that up. The plastic pump assembly itself in the bottom there, you push it in and then you twist it slightly to the right, and then that locks in. There's like a plastic locking collar that sits on the bottom of the tank. So now we've just got to dance these lines into here, making sure we don't pinch the seal. Get that seal in first. We can then push this into there. And this has got a particular point where this sits. There's a little sort of plastic cutout where it sits in there. Then you've got that locking ring, which we're going to put on, tap round with a chisel and a hammer. There is an arrow on this metal piece as well, and what you want to try and do is get that pointing to the centre of that plastic section. Clip the fuel lines back on, clip that plug back in. Right, we are there, so I'm going to give this area a good clean now, because we've finished here for the minute. So now we're at the point where we can put some fuel in the car. This was 27 quid for 20 litres. Drop a comment below, because I'd like to know how much you were paying per litre when you first started driving. I think this was about £1.40. I remember when these used to be less than 20 quid to fill up. What I'm going to do now is put some fuel in the car. I've left the fuel filter out of the housing, because once I've got some fuel in it, I'm going to turn the ignition on. That's going to bring me some fuel up from the tank into the filter housing. Then going to clean that out, fresh filter in, and put that all back together. I'm then going to take the line off of the fuel pump, do the same thing again. That's going to push some fuel into a can for me, just so I know that that line is then clear. I'm going to program the injectors, and then we're going to go for the first start. So I'm going to get all of that done, and then we'll cut back in when we go for the first start. Fingers crossed, this thing is going to run. So this is it now, guys. We've got everything sorted that we needed to. We've coded in the injectors. There's nothing more than to just turn it over. Hopefully there's still enough juice in the battery. We're going to see if this thing's going to go. Fingers crossed. Unfortunately, team, we're back to the drawing board on this one. So we were winding it over a moment ago, and I thought, sounds like it's got no compression. So I've had a quick look at the injectors on this side, and then had a look at the injectors on that side. And I think what I've done is I've got the clamps that clamp the injectors down into place the wrong way round on that side, because they look to be quite a bit further into the cam cover on this side, and that side they're slightly more proud. So I'm going to get back to it, take them ones back out, see if I have done that, flip them over if that's the case, put it all back in, and then in the next bit, we'll see if it does start. Hey! Yeah! That's right, we got it going. So that's it for today's video on the Volkswagen Touareg. We finally got there and we've managed to get this thing running, and that's fantastic. It's meant I've been able to move it away from the house a little bit so I can do some more work on and around the car. So what we're going to do in the next episode is take this thing for its first drive, take it down for an MOT and see what happens there, and then we're going to give it all a service, give everything a check over and make sure we're all good for the road. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.